Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuhu. Inshallah we will continue with the 22nd word, first station, and 11th proof.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The 22nd word, first station, 11th proof. Come, my friend, now I shall show you a decisive proof as powerful as the 10 previous ones. We shall board a boat and sail to a peninsula far away. Footnote: the ship indicates history, and the peninsula the era of bliss, or age of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Through casting off the dress of this low civilization on its dark shore, entering the seas of time, boarding the ship of history, and aligning at the Arabian Peninsula and era of bliss, and visiting the glory of the world, peace and blessings be upon him, at his duties, and visiting the glory of the world at his duties. We know that he is a proof of divine unity, so brilliant that he illuminates the entire globe and the two faces of the past and the future, and disperses the darkness of unbelief and misguidance. So we shall board a boat and sail to a peninsula far away. For the key to this riddle-filled world will be there. The key to this riddle-filled world will be there. Moreover, everyone is looking to that peninsula and awaiting something from it. Everyone is looking to that peninsula and awaiting something from it. They are receiving orders from there. See, we are going there. Now we have arrived and have alighted on the peninsula. Now we have arrived and have alighted on the peninsula. There is a vast gathering, a great concourse, as though all the important people of the country have gathered there. As though all the important people of the country have gathered there. Look carefully, this great community has a leader. Come, we shall draw closer. We must become acquainted with him. We must become acquainted with him. Look, what brilliant decorations he has. More than 1,000 of them. More than 1,000 of them. Footnote: the 1,000 decorations are the miracles of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, which, according to those who have investigated them, reach nearly 1,000. So how powerfully he speaks, how pleasant is his conversation. In these 2 weeks, I have learned a little of what he says. You learn them from me. See, he is speaking of this country's miracle displaying king. And he's displaying such wonders that they leave no doubt that he is his special envoy. He is his special envoy. Look carefully. It is not only the creatures on this peninsula that are listening to what he says. He is making the whole country hear in wondrous fashion. For near and far, everyone is trying to hear the speech here. It is not only humans that are listening, animals are listening too. Look, even the mountains are listening to the commands he brought, so that they are stirring in their places, and the trees too move to the place that he indicates. He brings forth water from wherever he wishes. He even makes his fingers like a spring of Kausar, and gives to drink from them. Look at his sign. An important lamp in the dome of this palace splits into two. Footnote: the important lamp is the moon, which split into two halves at his indication. That is, as Maulana Jami said, with the pen of his finger, that unlettered one who knew no writing wrote an alif on the page of the skies and made 140 250s. That is, before it split, the moon resembled meme, the value of which is 40, and after splitting, it became two crescents and resembled two noons, the value of which is 50. That means this country, together with all its beings, recognizes that he is an official and an envoy. They heed and obey him, as though knowing that he is the most eminent and true interpreter of an unseen displayer of miracles. They heed and obey him, as though knowing that he is the most eminent and true interpreter of an unseen displayer of miracles, and the herald of his dominicality, the discloser of his talisman, and a trustworthy envoy delivering his commands. The discloser of his talisman and a trustworthy envoy delivering his commands. All those with intelligence around him declare, yes, that is right, about everything he says, and affirm it. Indeed, through submitting to his signs and commands, the mountains and trees in this country and the huge lights that illuminates it say, yes, yes, everything you say is true. Footnote: the huge light is the sun. When it reappeared from the east on the earth revolving backwards, Imam Ali, may God be pleased with him, who had been unable to perform the prayers since the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was sleeping in his arms, due to this miracle, was able to perform the prayers on time. My foolish friend, could there be any contradiction or deception concerning the miracle displaying king, about whom this most luminous, magnificent, and serious being, who bears 1,000 decorations particular to the king's own treasury, is speaking with all his strength, confirmed by all the country's notables, and concerning the king's attributes which he mentions, and the commands which he relays. So, could there be any contradiction or deception concerning the miracle displaying king, about whom this most luminous, magnificent, and serious being, who bears 1,000 decorations particular to the king's own treasury, is speaking with all his strength, confirmed by all the country's notables, and concerning the king's attributes which he mentions, and the commands which he relays? If there is anything contrary to the truth in these things, it will be necessary to deny this palace. If there is anything contrary to the truth in these things, it will be necessary to deny this palace, these lamps, this community, both their reality and their existence. If you can, raise any objections against these, but you will see that they will be smashed by the power of the proof and flung back at you. And that's about it with this 11th proof.
So there are a few new faces among us, at least here at Philly. So if others don't mind, I will give it like a very short summary of what we are studying. So these are the proofs of unity of the Creator in the creation. And the author was giving us a parable, a story, in which two friends opened their eyes and happened to find themselves in a strange land, which like a palace. And then one of them was foolish, one of them was more reasonable, as usual. And the reasonable one was trying to convince the foolish one that there must be one single creator, maker of this palace-like place. And he was counting, listing all these proofs. Now we are in the 10th proof, the 11th proof, sorry. And now, as far as I see, the author is saying that yes, we studied all these proofs about the life pointing the unity of the creation, all these orders that we observe pointing to the unity of the creation. Creator, unity of the Creator, yes. And so on and so forth. And then he says now, okay, I will give you even more decisive one. Another proof which will be as strong as the previous 10 proofs. And he says, come and listen this envoy, or listen this messenger of the king, and look at him, what he tells, what he says, and how he tells and how he says, how he shows miracles. And through studying this messenger or envoy, you will know that whoever this messenger is representing must be a single king who has control over everything that this messenger is talking about, and that this messenger is part of. So that's the thing, like, he's talking about that, he's saying that the messenger of the king is the proof of the unity of the king, and also the king being the all-powerful over everything. So that's what he's saying in the 11th proof. Asim, I see your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Just to add to your summaries, basically, so the previous proofs were like the first proof, as I recall, was about looking at the universe. Universe is an evidence, a proof, and to see that whatever is existing, one can question that. And from the last week, I remember about the 10th proof was about the human qualities that we have. That is another evidence that, he was talking about once you reach the age of maturity, then all your senses, your feelings, everything are now there for you to investigate and really use and really question in terms of what all this world and what your existence, everything means. And now, so that was another thing. So there was first the universe, then you as a human being with all your senses, and now he comes over to the messenger and envoy. So there's like now the institution of prophethood that is being introduced, that as another proof in terms of seeing the unity. So that's something I found very interesting, like all those three elements, the three things, the universe, the human being himself, herself, and now a prophet.
Okay, thank you. So should we start from the beginning, or any other ideas? Okay, any comments regarding the first paragraph? I will not read it again because Feria already read it very slowly and in a very, I guess, intelligible face. So any points that you want to make about the first paragraph?
Yeah, you know, while we were reading the first paragraph, you know, when it says, oh, look carefully, this great community has a leader. Come, we shall draw closer. We must become acquainted with him. And then it goes on saying, look, what brilliant decorations he has, more than 1,000 of them, right? So I was just wondering, yeah, like, what do you mean by that? As in, maybe like, yeah, I was a little hung up on this. But yeah, if anyone has any idea, what does that mean? Brilliant decorations he has. And I know there's a footnote as well, so yeah.
Great question. Any answers, any ideas? We have the expert here, fortunately, about these decorations and miracles. But before asking to our expert, who's, I guess, sleeping right now, we can wait for others. Yusuf, would you like to share with us what you understand from these decorations, the miracles? Okay, it seems no. That's fair. So the way I understand, let me share. So there are many things, I guess, to be discussed in this paragraph, starting from the word being riddle-filled and the prophet holding the key to these riddles. But the prophet having all these 1,000 decorations, and in footnote, as Asim also in the comments points out, are the miracles of the prophet. So the way I see in total that, I guess, one of the biggest sign of the Creator and one of the biggest source of knowing the Creator is other human beings, the creatures like us, that we can talk, that we can interact, that we can, I don't know, study, that we can love, that we can hate. And the prophet is being the best example, or best, let's say, the human being that we can rely on. And to show us that he's the best example, or he's the most reliable example, or in maybe another way, to help us to initiate our dialogue with him, to rely on him, he is given these miracles to show us that he's an appointed envoy or appointed messenger of the one who can control everything. Because the miracles that he shows requires control over everything. So, for instance, in the rest of the text, he lists some miracles. For instance, he's holding his fingers and the water from the Kevsar coming through his fingers, and he's not feeding, but quenching the thirst of his companions. I guess the way it happens, he pours down some water on his fingers, and let's say he pours 1 liter, but comes 40 liters of the water. And his companions benefit from that. So such a miracle, or his, splitting the moon with his finger. All these miracles requires control over the order that we observe in the creation. as if the king who appoints this messenger telling us that I appointed him, and to show you that it was me behind everything, I will seize some rules that I usually run, and they will act according to my wish and according to his wish, to show you that the order you observe is from me. So this is how I understand these decorations. And I guess the word decoration is really a nice one, a nice choice. I don't know what is in original text, but as long as it's something about science or something, indicating what is the original? Nishan. Okay, perfect. Because it's like, you're going someone, a representative of the really high rank, and he has this special uniform, right? And you know him from the uniform that he wears. You know him from the decorations, like a general, for instance. Decorations that he wears, and you know that he's an appointed one. He's not just an ordinary one. So you can rely on him. You can know that he's representing a really high order, high rank. So I guess through these miracles, and he says thousands of them, on top of these big miracles like water from the Kawthar or splitting of the moon, his character, the way he treats people, the way he knows about the desires or the needs of others, and adjusting his sound, for instance, the voice accordingly, adjusting his walking speed accordingly, as if having a full understanding of what's going on around him. All these decorations tells us that he's a special one, he's an appointed one. So that was a long answer. I was trying to give myself energy, forcing myself. So, Asim, I remember you were raising your hand as well. So please go ahead if you still want to say something.
No, thank you. Because, okay, I was thinking also about he was in the first paragraph, he's telling us to imagine a little bit about going to this era of bliss, which he calls the age of the prophet. Peace and blessings be upon him. So that's why he says, we're gonna take this boat and then we're gonna board it and then get off at this, in this kind of time and space where, we are all receiving that message. So just like in the, just being awakening from, let's say, sleep, and you're just wondering where you are, what's going to happen to you. Same thing in this scenario also. You are they're receptive to the message. There's somebody who's an envoy who is speaking and who's displaying all these miracles, because now that we are in his time, right? So we are imagining, let's say, now that we're in his time, and there's somebody who is always talking about what the source is behind all this that we are seeing, right? So he says that this envoy is speaking of this country's miracle displaying king. So that's his mission. This envoy, he's talking about who the king is, and by looking at all those, highlighting what the miracles, everything that is around us, to that they are coming from a king. So that was what I was imagining in myself also. If there's a person right now, I'm listening to that person and I'm hearing what this person or envoy is saying, that whatever is you're seeing around you is a miracle, and this is coming from a king. So in that sense, the decorations or the miracles, they make sense because this envoy is trying to get the attention, so people pay attention to what he has to say. that is necessary in terms of like listening to him and seeing what he has to say. In that era and time, miracles were necessary in that sort to get the attention.
And he also says, there is a vast gathering, a great concourse, as though all the important people of the country have gathered there. Look carefully at this great community as a leader. So, since he is speaking metaphorically, I'm trying to understand what he is saying when he says there's a gathering, a lot of important people are in here. Because going with the metaphor, he said, let's get into a ship of time, history, get to the stage. It looks like as if other people like us travel with this time, with the history, and get to this age as well. And that's what he's meaning by this, as far as I understand. A lot of important people are paying attention to that time, what happened in here, because people have questions, and they're trying to find an answer to their question, and they feel like this man at that time came up with the answer. So instead of investigating any other time, focusing on any other people, let's say, putting it into words, instead of, let's say, focusing on Buddha or something else. So many people are, many important people, he says, important in the sense that they have a sound, let's say, reasoning and understanding, not only in terms of intellectual, but also in terms of their behavior. You see that they are consistent. So they are focusing on this man.
Referencing.
Yeah, they are trying to understand what happened in here. There is something serious going on in here. Because it makes sense. Think of it. You are, even if you are in the downtown Philadelphia, and you see, and forget about being important people. If you just see people gathering in front of a certain shop, you become curious what's going on in here. And now in this case, you see that important people are focusing on a certain thing. It is like, let's now come to another example of academia. You see that the pioneers of a certain research area, let's say machine learning, are now focusing on deep learning. So even if you are not very much aware of what's going on in there, you say that, well, all these people, pioneers of this research domain, are focusing on here. So let's go there and see what's going on in here. So likewise, he is, I guess, following the same approach. Anybody who is seriously asking questions and trying to find answers are considering the age of Muhammad ﷺ, seeing what did he say, what was happening in there, what sort of answers he came up with.
That's a good point you made. Because like the way we study the universe, the way we try to find answers to our questions, always through other people. Like we benefit from them. We are not living in isolation. We try to benefit from other people, and when we see that all these sound-minded, as you said, or sound-hearted people referring to same source, like it takes you there. You say, okay, there must be there. There must be something there. And so something similar with the rest of the text. It says, in these 2 weeks, I have learned a little of what he says. You learn them from me. I learned all these from him, the messenger, and you can learn from me. So I guess the author is also referring to this chain of information or chain of narrations. So yes, maybe I don't have, let's take it from the historical sense and talk about a specific person, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I may not have access to him, that's true, but I still have access to people who at least claims to following his way, his path. So I will not talk much about this because this is the topic that we will study during the retreat. Just a little spoiler, that there is a way to
benefit from him through Abdurrahman or through Yusuf, to the extent that they are following his message and they are following his traditions. And all these great minds, he's telling, all these great important people of the previous times or of our time, by following them, by observing them, I guess there's always a way to reach him and benefit from him. And from another perspective, I guess this fact alone that all these people following him becomes another decoration for the messenger. Any points? Any comments from our online participants? Okay, we can continue. So it talks about decorations, miracles, and he says, see, he's speaking of these countries' miracle displaying king. He is saying that the glorious king sent him to us. So he's attributing all these miracles, decorations to the king, not to himself.
And also, I guess, by the teaching of the messenger, you realize that everything is a miracle. Because the king is a miracle displaying king. The existence is a miracle. Everything becomes a miracle. So by his miracles, he teaches us that everything is a miracle. Also in the footnotes, it's interesting. So, because he says, through casting of the dress of this low civilization on this dark shore, so he is as if now describing this age as a dark age, low civilization, saying that let's cast off the dress of this low civilization. What does this mean? Because when I'm going to go to this era of police, as if he's saying that be naked from the clothing, mental clothing of this age, because I'm going to evaluate that age with my perspectives of this age. And he's saying that this age's perspective is distorted. So if you use this dark age's perspective about existence, then how are you going to properly evaluate what was happening in there?
I'm not sure if that was intentional, but I guess you described one aspect of, explained, not described, but explained one aspect of Hajj, right? Casting off all the clothes and just wearing one white piece of cloth, which is so important. Like you cannot go there with your current clothing, that your current understanding, that your current behavior.
And I guess we can find a lot of practical examples for that as well, because in this age, for example, it's all about material. There's no meaning, there is no spirit in this existence, there is no afterlife. And this person in there is describing us the existence is meaningful and living life according to this perspective. So looking at from my perspective, I would say this guy is insane. Or maybe, it doesn't necessarily need to be, let's say, because if we think like in a binary fashion, Muslim versus non-Muslim, so even today's Muslim society is very much distorted with the Western civilization's perspective. So it's not really black and white in this sense. So I shouldn't be thinking that since I am coming from such and such background, and our way, I can still interpret the time properly. Not like that. So, because there are a lot of things, especially if young people go there to those websites of atheists, for instance, there are a lot of criticisms regarding the message of Quran or the hadith of the messenger, because evaluating the content based on this current society's worldview. So without questioning my current worldview, how am I going to interpret them properly?
And yeah, that's a great point. Like, to be honest, all these critics, not all of them, but some of these critics, if you look from today's perspective, they make sense. Or the other way around, the message from today's perspective doesn't make much sense. Even talking about the miracles. Right? Are you kidding? It's just talking about the fairy tales from, yes, the perspective of today's society. And what we try to do, for instance, as you said, we quote-unquote believers, because we also have the same perspective, we try to explain them, purely metaphorically. Say that, oh yeah, but miracles, we didn't mean that. There's no such thing as miracle. With miracle, it was just a few symbols and whatever. Because we're still looking from the same perspective and trying to make sense of the message that we have to believe because of our background. We have to believe, so we try to take it and distort it, make it suitable for today's norms. Yeah, that's a great point. There is something, Abdurrahman, I guess you want to share? No? Sure. I can read your face, you know that. Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, I will continue with the next paragraph.
Just one more thing. At times, Nursi is also talking about, now in here, for example, he says, messenger is illuminating past and future, illuminating the whole globe. So in order to be able to understand that, I guess, again, isolating ourselves from time would help, because we need to see what the world looked like without his message. Like I have this cloth of the civilization, but also there are parts of the message that I received from him. So partially I can give meaning to existence without knowing that it is coming from the messenger. I think as if it's from some cultural background. And there are things that I cannot make sense of. So when I remove my cloth, as if now I'm trying to question everything that I have, then I find myself in the darkness in this existence. Where did I end up? Then I will see that the message that he brings is really enlightening the past and the future for me. Because for me, past is dead. Yesterday is dead. It's gone. Tomorrow, no guarantee, a lot of worries, what's going to happen, this and that. So with his message, past and future and the whole globe, the whole existence becomes illumined. But this is because of the message, not by any other source. Just clarifying this part.
And he's displaying such wonders that they leave no doubt that he's his special envoy. And then author says it is not only the creatures on this peninsula that are listening, but everything else, the whole country, near or far, everyone is trying to hear. He says not only even humans that listening to him, benefiting from his speech, but even the mountains, animals, the plants, trees, everything. And then he says all these creatures, the mountains, animals, plants, trees, they follow his command. They go wherever he wants them to go. Or he talks about other miracles, the spring of Kevsar, splitting of the moon. It's like he's listing all these miracles to say that everything is obeying to him. Or I guess we can also understand it as whatever he says is applicable to everything that we see in this creation, the universe.
And I guess also everything testifies to his messengership.
Yes.
And likewise, today, when I look at a tree today also testifies to his messengership, as it was testifying Today somebody sent an email like this, so it was a beautiful point. But there's this narration of miracle. A Bedouin comes. So Rasulullah asks him, where are you going? He says, I'm going to my people. Rasulullah says, shall I tell you something better than that? He says, what is it? He says, there's no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. And it starts with, I bear witness that there's no God but God. Then the Bedouin asks, what is the evidence for this bearing witness? Then
Bedouin means, by the way,
Bedouin is the people living in the desert. They don't have a society life. They are having this
city life,
small life. Yeah, they don't have city life. So then he says, what is your evidence for this bearing witness? He says, this tree over there is going to be my witness. Then he calls the tree comes and bears witness to the messenger, and then the Bedouin agrees. So likewise today, if I ask the same thing and the messenger tells me that that tree out there is going to be my evidence for there's no God but God and Muhammad is his messenger, okay, today the tree is not going to walk to me, but still part of this miracle is applicable because miracles are not random really. Today, when I ask it to the tree, by listening to what the tree says based on its existence, its creation, it tells me that there must exist a maker, a creator who makes me like this. And as I am a messenger, the tree is a messenger, there must exist a human messenger which speaks to you in your tongue. Because the tree speaks to me in the tongue of a tree, tries to convey me some message. And it says, you know what, there must exist another messenger of your type who will need you better than I need you. So everything in the existence says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
And this is our usual expectation, isn't it? Like when we find something miraculous, or when we find something, that we're trying to make sense and but couldn't, we start asking others, because we expect that someone will have the answer. Like even this, our attitude that we immediately start asking to others, immediately start reading books written by others. It shows that there's something expected, that we think there will be someone who knows the answer.
And as we have studied the miracles before coming to the 22nd word, at the 20th word, we were studying the miracles of previous messengers. And while doing that, we studied it in two ways, just to repeat. The first way was they are truly miracles that happened, and messengers needed those miracles so that people see this man is truly saying something interesting.
Decorations.
Yeah, the decorations are needed. Otherwise, why shall I take this person serious? So human is in need of such a thing. I cannot really very quickly, let's think about it, because the messenger was not a rich man anyways. So let's say a mediocre man in the street, maybe even of the poorer side, stops you and tries to tell you something. I will change my way. I mean, most likely I would say this is a homeless, whatever. So you need some sort of,
cut this one.
there needs to be some sort of a way that attract my attention. And I need to be able to say that, okay, there's something going on here, some sort of a stamp, some sort of a affirmation. And even stronger than that, because now the maker, because the person is claiming that I am the bringing you the message of the maker, the creator, the king. So then where is your evidence for that? So he says, okay, the king is going to do something extraordinary. Then you will know that he is right there. As if speaking, yeah, he is my envoy. He's going to move the tree from here to there, meaning that he is my envoy. So figurative speech, he will respond to you. But in the second aspect, when we were studying the miracles of messengers in the Quran, we also see that there was this meanings in those miracles, which alludes to today. Likewise, all the miracles of messenger can be applicable in a sense to today. So in here, as if in between lines, Nursi is still putting those in here. One of them is when he says he brings forth water from wherever he wishes. This one, also the next one, these are two important ones. He even makes his fingers like a spring of Kevthar and gives to drink from them. So in this miracle, messenger is just flowing water from his fingers. But Nursi is saying that it is a water like spring of Kevthar. Kevthar is a different concept in Quran. But Nursi is tying this concept of Kevthar to this miracle, saying that there is something common in between the two. So try to read it along these lines, try to interpret Kevthar like this or this like Kevthar. Because even when he says, because we discussed Musa alayhi salam extracting water from the rock, and in the case of messenger, he says from wherever he wishes he extracts water. So now he is, while we were speaking this miracle of Musa alayhi salam, we said that water is signifying truth, as if it is life for me. And from stone, he is just hits the staff to anywhere, any stone, and he extracts water from their life, from them. Such a contradiction. And to that, we were saying that the prophetic tradition extracts or shows us the truth of existence by just pointing to even rock. For example, in our discussions, we start from a flower, right? We are saying that look at this beautiful making of the, or orderly making of the flower. Can it happen by itself? No, it cannot. So there must be a maker. So now from that flower, as if we hit the staff to the flower and extracted the meaning of there must exist a maker from behind the flower. And in the example of messenger, he hits it to the stone and saying that look at this stone, and from even to from the stone can take me to the provider, to the all-powerful one. Likewise, here he is making the same thing with the finger and saying that the water flows through his fingers. And from there, he even tied it to same finger. This time it is splitting the moon. And by quoting this sentence of Mevlana Jami with the pen of his finger, he is writing a single letter, Aleph. Aleph is again signifying the oneness of the Creator. It is one, unity. And he splits single moon into two crescents, which elsewhere Nursi keeps explaining this, saying that this signifies, this miracle is signifying the two aspects of the messengerhood, like Abduhu wa Rasuluhu. So these both aspects. So there's also all these figurative meanings which is still available to me today. I haven't seen the moon splitting there, so the physical aspect of it, I am relying on the history, but still the meaning of it is available to me today, as if I am observing it in the first place.
To me, what you say is beautiful, but we're losing online participants since you start talking.
Too bad.
Bad ratings. So I have to ask someone else to speak next time.
On that.
Too bad.
Let's continue, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. That was beautiful. Abdurrahman, please. If you have something to share, we're losing blood.
I have nothing. Oh, my mama.
So he continues, all those with intelligence around him declare, yes, that is right about everything he says, and affirm it. Indeed, through submitting to his signs and commands, the mountains and trees in this country and the huge light, sun, that illuminates it, say, yes, yes, everything you say is true. Asim asks, can Yusuf clarify the two meanings of messengership, two aspects of messengership? If you like, please go ahead.
So when we say وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. So there's this, he himself being abd, so exemplifying being the slave is not the word, shall we say servanthood or ubudiyya to the utmost degree, like being the best example of being in a sense, realizing his neediness and being worshipped, then in this sense being a khalifa, sort of, because now humans' best ubudiyya is recognizing my khalifa, meaning that I am the representative of the created beings to my maker. So this is the first direction, from the creation to the creator. So this is, so abdness, khilafa, being the vicegerent, these are all the first aspect of it. Then for the second aspect of it, the messenger part, him being the direct student of the creator, being the direct addressee of the creator, being taught by the creator, and receiving, bringing the message to the rest of beings from the creator. So this is the second wing of him.
Asim, if you'd like to make comments on that, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. That was very good. That's what I wanted to hear, basically. So once he takes the, following whatever he's getting, he is also applying that in his life personally. That's what the Abduhu, as I understood. And then the Rasul part, as Yusuf mentioned, that whatever the revelation, he's being directly addressed and getting the message, and then that's what he is propagating as well, and sharing and enlightening everyone with that message. Thank you.
And some other places that we studied with Asif and some other people, that same author is talking about the messenger himself having his own journey. So he's being abd, he's being a worshipper, not only a messenger, but also a worshipper. I guess it makes it more accessible for us, because now I also have it as a model. It's not only just conveying the message, but as Asim said, he's also benefiting from the message himself and transforming his own life according to message. So I know that the way he speaks, the way he walks, the way he eats tells me something about the message. It also shows me how to apply this message in my life, or maybe how to understand the message through these actions. By following his practices.
And even, I guess, at the place that Musa studied this, his abdness presides or leads to messengerhood. And his journey is as if a combining line between from abdness to messengerhood. Inshallah, with that pace, within 2 years or 3 years, we are going to study this topic, Miraj.
Inshallah. And we will discuss in this coming retreat in deep what we gave just a spoiler, not following his practices and so on. But yeah, in coming years maybe we can study the
Actually, within 3 years.
Oh, you mean just during our Friday discussions?
Yes. Statistics say that we go 100 pages a year. Actually, no, we go 50. So it's going to be within 6 years.
Inshallah, we will be in our age where the Prophet received the message.
So I guess I'm lost then.
I'm lost as well. I mean, that's referring to younger,
Nice.
friends. Okay, so the last paragraph, we haven't talked about yes, that's right part. like everything, everyone, or even everything, so declaring that yes, he's right. All the Yusuf said a few things about that, giving the example of tree. But any comments about this part? All those with intelligence around him declare, yes, that's right. Yes. Okay, we can continue with the last paragraph. If it is so clear to everyone. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's very clear. And I just wanted to say that pretty much the way he's explaining it, it's showing that he has a very special message. He has the attention of everyone, and obviously he's alluding to the country, and then comprehensively talks about the animals and mountains and all these different things. So hence it would lead to a statement like, yes, everything you say is true, because it's almost overbearing in terms of the message, that it couldn't be false, or because he's caused a stir pretty much, where everyone has heard of him or heard something about him, and he's looking to hear more. Just so you don't say I didn't say anything.
No, that was important. My foolish friend, could there be any contradiction or deception concerning the miracle displaying king, about whom this most luminous, magnificent and serious being, messenger, who bears 1,000 decorations particular to the king's own treasury, is speaking with all his strength, confirmed by all the country's notables, and concerning the king's attributes which he mentions, and the comments which he relays. If there is anything contrary to the truth in these big things, it will be necessary to deny this palace, these lamps, this community, both their reality and their existence. This part I'm not sure I couldn't, like, partly English, partly, like, I couldn't see how it follows the previous part. So if there's anything contrary to the truth in these things, what he means with that?
There's any contradiction in here.
In what?
So in the first sentence he was saying that the messenger with all his miracles, and under the confirmation of all the people that follows him, is pointing to a creator. So if there is any contradiction to this, I mean, in this message, if there is any contradiction, then that would imply the existence is fake. We will need to, because what he points to is all based on the existence, or so solid. So if you say that, no, he is lying in this sense, in that sense, whatever.
Okay. So because his like entire existence, he starts from the entire existence and rely on the existence. So he's just talking about the facts, and from these facts, he is concluding about the creator, unity of the creator. So if you think it's lie, then you have to deny the premises, which is the existence.
Because if we go back with the examples that he gave, let's take it in two ways. First, a tree declaring, confirming his message, both physically coming and declaring, and also figuratively, every tree today declaring his messenger. And if I say that no, there is something lie, then I need to deny the tree, because the tree is declaring it. Even today, the tree declares that God is one and Muhammad is his messenger. He says, in the following sentence, if you can raise any objections against these, you will see that they will be smashed by the power of the proof and flung back at you.
If you can raise any objections against these, but you will see that they will be smashed by the power of the proof and flung back at you. Like entire creation will smash our claims.
The creation will throw the proofs back at you and say, then explain this in a better way, or explain how it is not, or it does not exist. It's almost like a rhetorical, you know. So all the proofs are too numerous, hence they're too numerous, too obvious, too strong, too many, that will necessarily be flung back at you. This is what they call establishing concrete evidence. There's no way around it, unless you want to pretend.
Or cover.
Or cover, yeah, that's a better word.
And it is good in this sense, let's say that sureness of Nursi in here is important, because when somebody asks about my religion, come and in your religion, how is this, for example? Some question like this. Somebody was mentioning today in an email about angels. So he was saying that in an interfaith dialogue thing, so at the level of like scholars, so they said that, okay, at such and such week, let's discuss angels. And the Muslim scholar presenting there made a presentation of 20 minutes. And the content of the presentation was, in our religion, angels are genderless creatures. They never disobey God, this and that. Just very flat description, brief and flat description. And it's in a sense that in our religion, this is how we are supposed to believe. As if, I mean, this is what the book says.
Just passes.
So, yeah. But in here, as if Nursi is saying that it is within a, when it comes to the messenger, let's say some narration comes from history about messenger, we say, yeah, I have to believe because it says so, something like that. He says, no, it's not. The whole existence supports his message. So if you are trying to mess up with message at some point, you first need to deny the existence. Otherwise, the existence is going to come against you. Because the existence is supporting the messenger. The existence supported the messenger at his lifetime with all the miracles. But today, the existence supports the messenger. Because the messenger means the message. It's not like, for example, Yusuf means my soul, not really my, flesh and bones. When you mean Yusuf, you don't mean this body. When we mean messenger, actually we are meaning the message. And in a certain time of the timeline of this existence, he appeared as flesh and bones. But for today, to me, the message is still alive, and the same message as it was supported 14 centuries ago, today it is being supported from the trees, from the sun and the moon and everything.
On this, we also see in the creation something interesting that was probably your example anyway. The agreement with the body and the soul as well, the spirit. Like we don't see the spirit of lion, this is your example, in the body of sparrow, or spirit of sparrow in the body of lion. So when we say that, it's the message, we all, I guess we shouldn't mean that, or I shouldn't mean that at least. I don't care about, how it is embedded in a concrete way, like how I observe the message or how I interact with the message, as if saying that, it doesn't matter who says, it's important what he or she says. To me, at least, it doesn't work like this. Like when I see someone who constantly lying, when I see someone who doesn't know how to behave to people or how to speak, how to eat, just acting like,
a buffoon.
A buffoon, yes. And then telling me something wise, it doesn't work, at least for me. It doesn't work. I guess that's the reason the author also putting the emphasis that he was a person, and the people around him was following him. The people around him was respecting him. Why I'm telling this, because today also, the way I learn about the message, or the way I learn about my Creator, again through people. And the first thing I see in people is how they behave. I see sincerity in people, and then approach them, and then message is ready to be conveyed. So everything, I guess, starts with the behavior. It starts with the actions, the sincerity.
So you exemplified the message.
Yes.
And you manifested its benefits or results. So it became easier to swallow.
Exactly. And also, like, the message is so abstract. Like when we say that, even the words, even when it is written, that concrete. I don't know how to approach it. Like one example, the word democracy. So yes, it sounds like something good, right? But when it comes from the mouth of the US military, I know that it means something, not nice. Right? This is what they bring, that they bring democracy to, let's say, Syria or Iraq. So democracy, the message, it means something else now. Same word, same message. But from the people who speaks the message, my approach to the message is different because I see how it is embodied in this word.
In truth.
How it is, in a concrete shape in their hands. But when someone else talks about democracy, and when I look at his life, the way he treats people, I say, okay, whatever he means with this democracy, I'm into it. Not the democracy that they say, but the democracy he says. Like apparently same message, because this is also true for the Creator. We see very similar texts. We see very similar sentences coming from different mouths. What we're going to do? Am I going to, just stick to any of them? Because, they seems like, the same message, the words are same. People speaks of, let's say, the fasting, but sometimes they speak it as, the means of making you more powerful. Like you say, okay, I'm fasting, I'm training myself, I'm becoming more powerful. You can take it the same, like fasting that way, or some other people taking it in a completely another way and seeing it as a means of becoming weak and weak and weaker and weaker to the point you reach your truth. So what I'm saying is, without the body, without the actions of this body, without how this body treats people, how this body lives his life in this world, the message is just something, floating in the air. It becomes the democracy of military. I apologize for anyone who is US citizen. I didn't mean.
We know what you meant. You don't like democracy.
We all striving for becoming a US citizen, so.
Then I would be careful.
So we have a few minutes left, so I would appreciate any final comments. Any final comments, remarks?
So I'm just going to say something, just based on some things that I know about the life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This pretty much, this message, or this 11th, what is it, what proof?
The
11th proof. So it's pretty much in concert with what is narrated about him, or what was collected about him in terms of information. You know, things like the hadith where he used to speak from, for example, next to a tree, and if the next day he wasn't speaking from that tree, the tree would cry out because I guess they were content with him being there, or I guess whatever he emanated from himself, it was that good that the tree missed them. And just from the compassion, the proofs, the sacrifices that he made, kind of embodies this sort of message, comprehensively in terms of physically, materially, and also metaphysically. So it's a nice message to explain him in a sense, in a very comprehensive way.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر